कहो एक बार हे मित्रों, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार हे मित्रों, वैदिक धर्म की जय हो। सनातन धर्म की जय हो। वैदिक धर्म की जय हो। वैदिक धर्म की जय हो। आर्य समाज की जय हो। कहो एक बार हे मित्रों, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। वैदिक धर्म की जय हो। आर्य समाज की जय हो। Let me personalize this for a moment. When I called my mom this morning, not that she responded, what did I think about? And I wish we can all do the same. I thought of my mom when she was born, a little girl, a little baby. And as soon as she reached her, I don't want to use a term, but when she became a young lady, since then, and it happens in India too, they keep putting it in their head, for whatever reason, you don't belong here, you have to go. You have to go. And it might sound cruel, but that's the reality. There is no father or no mother who keeps their daughters at home forever. In fact, there's a terrible stigma attached to a young lady staying at home for too long. She needs to move on. And even when we go into Vedas and we look at the psychology that's operative there with regard to females, and many women say, oh, this is inherent injustice. But we're not going to focus on that today. In some seminar, we'll focus on whatever so-called injustice is meted out to women. We'll focus on that another time. But look at this. Since she's little, and if you look at the blue, since she's little, they tell her there's something called modesty associated with coming womanhood. There's something called a mental, psychological preparation before you ultimately give birth to a child. And that involves, Beti, they tell her, don't look around when you walk. Society, even older women, it's not only a man's thing, but society has a tendency of pointing fingers. So Beti, when you walk the street, show modesty in the way you look. In the way you watch. And Beti, child, they tell you, when you step out of your daddy's home before marriage, step with caution. Look at the blue. I may not have the time to quote the Sanskrit today, but what is important? Step with caution, my child. The nanis and the ajis and the dadis. Daddy in northern India meaning grandmother from father's side. What we call aji, many parts of India call daddy. Your nani, your daddy and your aji, they talk to the granddaughter approaching so-called womanhood. When you step, Beti, and you step out of your daddy's door, ask your 2 feet, where are you taking me? Sambhal ke chalna hai. Step with caution, my child. And one thing more, never expose your private parts, and by that we mean here and we mean down there. Never expose them. You know why? Look at them when you take a shower and understand these are the divine parts that God gave you to bring new generations into being. All that you have is focused on bringing a whole new generation into being. And if you corrupt these, and we need to talk to the men too about their body parts, but on another day, perhaps on Father's Day, on Mother's Day, oh Beti, daughter, Putri, if you corrupt these, then the offspring and the children that will be born will also carry the seed of corruption in their mind. You know, Beti, when it comes to a distinction between the two genders in terms of man or woman, the woman is more godlike than the man. And some of you may fail to understand this statement because of the so-called terrible injustice meted out to women in terms of a bride burning and all of that. But whatever it is, the point is, the bottom line is, Ved says that a woman is God in a restricted sense. And you may ask, how? Well, God created the first set of human beings in the beginning of creation. Agni, Vayu, Aditya, and Angiras, and all the first set of asexually created human beings. And after that, God said to woman on earth, where you now carry on the tradition of creativity. You are now me, God said. And I would like you to if you can, would you kindly, let me hear the harmonium. Would you kindly read this last line? Strihi Brahma. See that?
Strihi Brahma.
I love the way you chant. Strihi Brahma.
Strihi Brahma.
Babhuvitha.
Babhuvitha.
Babhuvitha means is. Stri means woman. And Brahma means God in his creating function. A woman is God, especially in his creating function. That's why in part of our singing tradition we say, usko nahi dekha humne kabhi, par uski zarurat kya hogi. ए माँ तेरी सूरत से अलग भगवान की सूरत क्या होगी उसको नहीं देखा हमने. Children in the movie, I believe, were talking to their daddy ma. And they said, and the dadima was telling them about God, go worship God. He said, dadima, meaning Aji, who is like ma, dadima usko nahi dekha humne kabhi. We never saw him before. So whenever I say many times, God doesn't have a face for us to look at, I'm actually paraphrasing this line of this song. Usko nahi dekha humne kabhi. We have never seen him, dadima. Para uski zarurat kya hogi? What need? Zarurat need. What need is there to see him, dadima? Every morning I wake up, I see your beautiful rose garden face. Ay maa teri surat se alag Bhagavan ki surat kya hogi? How much surat means face. How much different can God's face be from your face, mother? And every child, no matter how for another home this lady may be so-called ugly, but for this home, these children see their mom as the prettiest lady on earth. And when they hug mom, or when they call mom on Diwali and Bhagwa Day, you know why they cry? Because they're speaking to the very epitome of spiritual beauty, the very mountain of spiritual beauty. Look at the sacrifice, and the men folk have sacrificed too, but not as much as this. Before marriage, she has a name, and in preparation for marriage, she has a name, and after marriage, she has a name. Before she was married, they call her Putri. She will save her parents. Which parents? The one she goes to meet with in her husband's house. And my mom did that, and many other moms here did that. My mom virtually washed my aja. Go ahead. My mom washed my aja. My mom took care of my aji. Those are the parents. When a bahu, jab vivah karke bahu ban ke aa jati hai, when after marriage she comes into her house, these are the parents she saves from the pain or the hellish pains of old age. That's why they call her Putri. And this is not her house. The house where she was born is not her house. For which reason? For which reason? Here, handle this. For which reason? For which reason? She moves out. She moves out of that house. She moves out of that house. That's her biological home. That's not really her home. That's why we sing. Sing with me. Jai Jai Pati Parameshwar. Jai Jai Pati Parameshwar. Sing.
Jai Pati Parameshwar.
Jai Jai.